Hey, good evening, C3 parents, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your coach, Karien Pitout, and if you're new here, please remember to subscribe. Hit that like button to help this this video take off. We've been targeted a bit by some uh, how can I put it politely? Some people and some of the videos actually have been started being suppressed, especially the videos that actually addresses concepts like racism. And so please help the channel out. All right. So tonight's topic: gentle parenting and the honest truth. How does it feel like? A lot of times I have conversations with clients and with parents, and usually, especially when a child goes through a leap, they talk and they say, you know what, it feels like my child. It's not working. It really at times can feel like gentle parenting is not working, and the reason being is if we go look at punitive parenting, you have almost like an instant result, or it feels like you have an instant result. The only problem is a day later you have faced the same problem, and the child gets punished, and later on that child actually has a fear response. But what happens in the background is that child learns, like, okay, as long as I don't get caught, I cannot get punished, and therefore I can get away with it. So that's that they constantly need a police officer over their shoulder. With gentle parenting, the aim is not to get a instant response. And I know that is exactly where we as gentle parents feel like we're running into a wall. Um, we feel like, but I need my kids to listen to me, and I need my kids to respond. And yes, they do. They do listen to you. They do respond. But what we're working at is not an instant reaction. We want them to develop an internal guideline. I want my child to make good decisions even when I'm not there, or they don't have someone peeking over their shoulder to make sure that they are making good choices. We want to teach our children that certain types of behavior is not acceptable, but we want them to understand it so that they can react in compassion when someone else oversteps a line or oversteps a boundary, and they can actually react in a step of compassion instead of a step of judgment. We see it so often in our journey as gentle parents. And I know I'm going to veer off a bit, where we're scared to admit, any parent, we're scared to admit when we've made a mistake. We're scared to admit that, you know what, that child having a tantrum at the moment is my child, or that was my child yesterday. We live in this world, we have to be perfect parents, and the kids have to be this perfect human beings, even though the bar is much higher for kids to be perfect. Um, and we judge, we fear the judgment of others. And therefore, we get extremely frustrated when our kids take a little bit longer to grasp a concept, when we actually do have to repeat certain conversations. And then we kind of feel like, my child's not getting this. It feels like gentle parenting is not working. It feels like I've had this conversation so many times, and it feels like I've reached the point where the only thing that my brain can think about at this point in time is punishment. I have personally been there. I know that my Habitron has been there. We all have felt that. If we can move past that feeling, that emotion, recognizing the emotion, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry, I feel my child should get this. After I have calmed down, or after we as the parent have calmed down, we need to go back to, first of all, what is the brain development of my child? Where are they? What's a true my expectation and the reality of what they can do and what they can't do? Um, and stop comparing our kids to their peers, in the sense of, oh yeah, but that 4-year old is listening when mom and dad is talking. That those parents go home, go like, hey, high five, we had a good day, Susie actually listened to us today when we said it was done. They don't always have those great days every single day. Um, children have bad days, and obviously, so today my child might struggle, but tomorrow someone else's kid may struggle. And that's where the compassion comes in. When I have these conversations about these repetitive conversations with our kids, it is very important to think back on the first 2 years of your kid's life, right before the so-called challenging two. I know they call it terrible twos, but it's not terrible twos. It's actually terrific twos. Right when that point when they start that journey, up to there, what have we been doing while we were teaching them? We were teaching them to talk. How were we doing it? By repetitively saying the same thing. I'm going to change your diaper now. Ooh, look, I'm wiping your bum now. Um, let's put on your pajamas. It is bath time. Let's now sound like a robot. Let's get dressed. Let's go bath. Oh, it's time to brush your teeth. Ooh, can you smile for me? We keep on inviting them in to behave in a certain way that would be pleasing or would be socially acceptable and will actually socialize them and actually enable them to live within certain social conformities and certain social expectations. Obviously, our expectations of a 1 month old differs from a 6 month old, and so the story goes. But here's the thing: repetition is so important, and we get it for the first 2 years. The first 2 years of a child's life, it is praise and praise and praise and praise. They learn to walk and they trip and fall, and or they wobble and they fall, and we're like, oh, you did so well, well done, let's try again, let's get up, let's move on. Almost that whole mindset of everybody makes mistakes, let's just move on, let's fix it, let's get up, let's go on. And then the moment our children start going through the developmental phase of, hey, I am a person on my own, I am not one and the same person as my primary caregiver, obviously then they are going to try and test, like, how far does this own personhood go? And then they start pushing boundaries. And obviously, then they hear no or experience resistance for the first time, or disappointment. They experience disappointment truly for the first time. And that is then where the wobble comes in, where we feel like, oh my word, my kid's never going to get this because I keep on acknowledging emotions, I keep on blocking, I keep this thing going. But here's the thing: we want our kid to stop doing certain behaviors or stop behaving in a certain way or behave in a specific way. But what we've used to encourage them in the first 2 years, we flip the script on them by becoming punitive, by becoming irate, by becoming impatient for their learning curve. And that is one of the core things about gentle parenting is we do not flip the script on our kids. We keep basically praising, we keep encouraging, we keep on talking, we keep on talking it through to them. And just like it takes a child about 5,000 times to hear a word before they can use that word properly and in context, same goes for life skills and rules and boundaries that they need to learn to understand. So often I explain to some of the parents out there that, let's take in South Africa the COVID regulations when it first all started. And this video is going to age so well. All right. When it first started in South Africa, they had the work from home orders, they had the no socialization, like isolation, stay in your little house and all of that. And everybody that followed the news and everything in this pandemic, their first instinct was, yes, please, just let's just shut down, let's lock down, let's get everything, protected. Let's try to stop this virus from spreading immediately. And everybody was in, like, most people were, we were okay with this. If we can lock down for 3-4 weeks and we can stop it, we can go back to normal life and all of that. And then the big wobble came. Why? Because the boundaries of some of the lockdown regulations was nonsensical. We did not understand it. It wasn't logical. It just made no sense. And a lot of times our kids react the same way. If they do not understand a rule, or it does not make logical sense for them, they are going to keep on pushing against that rule or find alternative ways to try and circumvent that rule. Yes, I'm talking to all the people that bought cigarettes on the black market because banning cigarettes during the COVID lockdown just made no sense. Um, there was no logic behind it, at least from the from in almost basically any perspective. There wasn't really, we it made no sense. So a lot of people started trying to circumvent it, and that's what happens when we put in boundaries that is nonsensical. And what happens is, for instance, like the alcohol ban, when people started pushing back, like, but why are you removing alcohol from alcohol consumption? We're the only country. I think there's like 3 countries that did it, but we are the first country that did it. Um, we actually needed someone to come out and explain to us and say, listen here, the hospitals can only handle X amount of traumas. COVID is causing a big run on the hospitals. We will end up with XYZ situations if we, because this is what the statistics of the past shows us, that when it's over New Year's or whatever and there's alcohol consumption within this specific country, this is what happens at the hospitals. These numbers increase, and people are going to die. We will actually have to chase people away, like show them away from the hospital, because the hospitals won't be able to carry the influx, because it's already being overrun by this new threat that is taking things over. Same goes for when we raise our kids. After that explanation, most people that were upset about the alcohol ban were like, okay, you know what? That makes sense. I can then stick within the rules and boundaries, and I can deal with not having access to alcohol for the time period. As soon as the ban is lifted, we can carry on. Same goes for our kids with gentle parenting. The moment a child understands a rule or a boundary, they start living by that rule or boundary, and they don't need us then to police them. We don't need to check in on them. We don't need to double check or triple check on them. But here's the important thing: the younger they are, the more they need to have that repetition and that conversation. The older they are, because of where their brain development is at, the less we have to have that specific conversation. The moment they get it, it's easier for them to stick with the rule. So it's not that gentle parenting is ineffective. It just uses a different approach, but the outcome is completely different than that of punitive parenting. With punitive parenting, when you actually decide to stop doing things because you're scared of how you will be punished, you start trying to find different ways to achieve your end goal or see how you can get away with it. There's no self policing. You will try and get away with things until there's someone else peering over your shoulder. And we can see it on our roads every single day. People driving over the speed limit, disregarding road rules, general public behavior, because, well, what are they going to do to me? I'll get a ticket, because a ticket isn't, it's punitive, it's policing. It's not an internal locus of like, you know what, I need to respect others. And here's the interesting thing: if we work with the internal locus of getting our kids focused on that internal direction, it changes the conversation completely. Then instead of having to worry about the me, myself, and I, that child starts looking at, okay, but this is the logic. This is why XYZ. Therefore, the impact of my behavior will be less disruptive to those around me. And therefore, I become thinking in a conscious way regarding others that I encounter, and therefore we become more inclusive to others just by simple things, by when we from babyhood, going through the talking a lot, blocking a lot, redirecting a lot, and having lots of conversations, affirming emotional health, affirming the feelings that a child is having, but also having those conversations of, this is not going to work, this is why it's not going to work. And so, yes, gentle parenting can be tough. It is not an easy style of parenting. However, we are not instant gratification focused. We are long term focused. We've got a long term goal, and that is to raise a child who becomes an adult that does not have to heal from childhood trauma, doesn't feel weird anxieties or guilt for things that they don't truly understand, that can stand up for justice and authentically be who they are, and is not scared to use their voice or to question what's going on. And really, someone that, or kids or adults who drive to find the truth and really getting the authentic reasons of why certain things work a certain way. So, yes, it's not easy. It is worth it though. I remember, and this is a small flashback before I say good night to everybody. I remember when my eldest were 4, and we've had a conversation over and over and over again. It was to do something in the shops, and I just remember I turned around to Hubbatron and I said to him, "I don't think that we may have made a huge mistake." And he went through his developmental leap where his brain consolidated everything, and all of a sudden, literally after the consolidation, the boundary was there and he stuck to it, and still up to today he still sticks to it. And eldest actually has is autistic and ADHD, which means impulse controls practically non-existent. Yet those conversations, those boundaries that we've spoken through, they are there. And 99% of the time, they're capable of sticking to those boundaries for as long as their body is not overloaded, because the moment the body is overloaded, the impulse control walks out the back door. Um, and we can see it in our youngest as well, those continuous conversations about, you cannot do it this way. This is not the way to do it. And this is the reasons why you do it. Those conversations that also we're like, okay, we just need to be going through this teaching moment. The brain will consolidate. We will get there, and we can see the results every single time. And you can actually ask any parent that practices gentle parenting. That means gentle parenting, not with, oh, I'm a gentle parent, but I spank my child every now and again. Honest, gentle parenting, like we do not hurt our kids or punish our kids. We're not punitive. Will tell you the same thing. By the time that they reach a point where they're like, oh my word, I don't know if this is working, child goes through a leap and they're like, oh, okay, we're fine. We're fine. It actually worked. Oh my word, my kid gets this. And ironically enough, to their peers, as our kids grow older, initially it looks like the younger they are, the less the more wild they seem in comparison to kids being raised in punitive households. And then as they grow older, you start seeing the difference. The kids, as they grow older, that needs constant policing, where the gentle parents sit back and they relax and they just it does become easier. The conversations gets trickier, the conversation sometimes gets tougher, but parenting does become easier. So, guys, if you're watching this on the replay, please hashtag replay. I love seeing your faces. If you have any questions, you're welcome to pop them into the chat down below. I will happily get back to you. I will please share this with your friends, your family. Any person that has questions about gentle parenting, you're more than welcome to reach out. I am going to sign off now. Have a beautiful evening. Stay safe. Take care of those you love. And you know what? Maybe just have that conversation one more time with your kid. Don't give up. It is honestly, truly worth the conversations. Have a good one and stay safe.